So Freevee, the free, as the name suggests, free ad-supported streaming service, is going to be phased out over the next couple of weeks. And so by January 1st, presumably, Freevee will be no more. The content on that has already migrated over to its parent company, Amazon's streaming service, of course, Prime Video. And that content, despite being on Prime Video, will remain freely available, even if you don't have a Prime account. And it'll be labeled as, like, quote-unquote, watch for free. I got a quote here from a statement from Amazon, kind of outlining their reasons for this. And we'll kind of, like, dissect it and kind of see what they're really trying to say behind all the corporate-y bullshit. Saying, quote, "We have built Prime Video into a first-stop entertainment destination where customers can personalize their viewing experience by streaming exclusive Prime member entertainment produced by Amazon MGM Studios." Sidebar, because, of course, Amazon bought the classic film distributor MGM Studios. Where were we? By streaming exclusive Prime member entertainment produced by Amazon MGM Studios, licensed movies and series, content from other services as an add-on subscription, live sports, blockbuster movies and series to rent or buy, fast channels, and the complete Amazon Freevee content offering. To deliver a simpler viewing experience for customers, we have decided to phase out Freevee branding. There will be no change to the content available for Prime members, and a vast offering of free streaming content will still be accessible for non-Prime members, including select originals from Amazon MGM Studios, a variety of licensed movies and series, and a broad library of fast channels, all available on Prime Video, end quote. And luckily, with this, no layoffs are expected since the teams had already been merged and integrated between Freevee and Prime Video before this point, right? So the history of Freevee kind of, this is like maybe perhaps an obituary for Freevee. So, it is, or maybe in the next couple of weeks it was, past tense. It's a free ad-supported streaming television service. So, or FAST would be the acronym. Free ad-supported streaming television. It initially launched as IMDb Free Dive in 2019. Of course, Amazon has owned IMDb, like the website where you can look up, the Internet Movie Database. They've owned it since, like the late 90s. I don't know if it was launched originally under Amazon. I believe they acquired it, but I'm not sure. But in any case, IMDb has been part of Amazon for like the longest time. So they launched this free service in 2019. It was a couple months later, quickly rebranded to IMDb TV, which is how I was first introduced to it during COVID. And then in 2022, they changed the name to Freevee. I don't know why they wanted to get away from the IMDb brand, but in any case, they did. And it kind of built up a little, had built up some acclaim as a host of some original content. Because most of these fast services, like Freevee and Tubi and Pluto TV, they really were the home to licensed content, right? Movies and TV shows, and the idea is that they made their money by putting ads, usually inappropriately placed, like especially if you're watching a movie. Like there was no thought to where, because like in the old days when a movie would be on TV, like they would try to find like the best place to go to commercial, and then they would like fade out the movie so like you knew. Whereas for these services, you'll just be like watching the movie, and then like sometimes if you're lucky, it'll be like between a scene, but it'll just like cut. So like if you're not really paying attention, maybe you like might not realize that it's not the movie anymore. But anyway, so they had kind of built up this original content library, including highly acclaimed stuff like Jury Duty, right? The kind of mock documentary series, kind of almost like not quite a prank, but you can see pictured here, it's like that show where like they have this normal dude think he's on a jury duty, but it's all actors. And it's like a scripted thing, or at least like designed, like there's like a storyline, but like he doesn't realize it's a show. He just thinks it's like a documentary about jury duty or jury duties. So there's like that show, which was really well liked. The show like Bosch Legacy, which I think was a spinoff of the show Bosch, which was a Prime show. Judy Justice, right, which is like a follow up to Judge Judy, right? So it's like her new show, I guess. So this is, but again, if you're worried about losing access to any of these, unlike with some other issues with streaming where companies just decide, you know what, we're canceling this show, we're shutting down this service, and because there was no physical media for this content, it's basically just gone, short of pirating it, right? Luckily, that's not happening, because again, before this content had already been kind of migrated over to Prime Video, and that's where it will remain. So even if Freevee itself is dying, the content will live on. But it's interesting that Freevee got to the point that it got because, fast services, again, free ad-supported streaming, has become super, super important, right? So if you kind of turn back the clock, at the dawn of widespread streaming, right? Things like Netflix, which originally they launched their streaming in 2009, but it really didn't take off until 2012, 13, and especially, 14 with something like House of Cards, like when they really got into original content. But streaming initially had several advantages or benefits compared to regular linear broadcast television. And a couple of those benefits were the content was better, right? Because they were able to put more money into it. They could swear, right? Kind of like that HBO kind of vibe. Everything was available on demand, right? So you didn't have to wait. The show's not coming on until 7 o'clock on Thursday night. You could just watch it whenever you want. And then no ads, right? Those were the three big value propositions that streaming, provided consumers. Of course, these things like Netflix and then eventually Prime Video and Hulu, they made their money by licensing stuff. That's how they got their content until they started making their own content. But eventually the movie studios looked around and went, hey, why can't we just beat Netflix at their own game? So they all decided to make their own streaming services, starting with Disney Plus really in earnest in late 2019, followed by, HBO Max and Paramount Plus and Peacock, and everyone wants to have their own streaming service. And then I think it was 2021, Netflix had like the first time in its history subscriber numbers went down. And it basically caused like the entire entertainment industry to basically have like a little mini crash. And it seemed like these companies had really fucked up by putting all their eggs in this streaming basket. So this bubble being burst forced companies to rethink their strategy. So one of the ways that they decided, because at this point, because Netflix and companies like it were being treated like tech companies or like startups, where the goal isn't to make a lot of money, the goal is to grow. So even if you're in the red year after year, if you're growing, Wall Street likes that. But when you have a little bubble burst like this, the shift switches, the focus switches from growth to revenue. Like classic business goals, like making more money. So one of the ways to increase your revenue are with ads, right? Amazon CFO Brian Olsavsky, pardon my mispronunciation, had a quote about this, saying, quote, advertising remains an important contributor to profitability in the North America and international segments. This quarter, we saw strong growth on an increasingly large basis of advertising revenue. There are many opportunities to further expand our ads offering in areas that are driving growth today, like sponsored products, as well as more recent growth areas like Prime Video ads, end quote. Most of these companies have not necessarily gone the fast model, right? So it wouldn't be free, but Netflix and Disney Plus, they're all offering cheaper tiers that would include ads. So it's kind of having your cake and eating it too, because you're getting a subscription revenue on top of your users sitting through ads. So if anything, I would wager that they might be able to make more money per customer if they are using the cheaper subscription but having ads, right? Because you're paying more, you as the consumer are paying more for the no ad version, but that's just flat, right? It doesn't change depending on how much you use it. Whereas, if a lot of people are watching a certain show and they're watching a certain amount of ads, that's going to be more money, right? But of course, there have been these completely free options, right? These fast services like Tubi, Pluto TV, and Freevee, oftentimes owned by the larger companies that have their own paid streaming services. So I believe Tubi is owned by, I think it's Fox, but not 20th Century Fox, obviously, because now Disney owns that. But I think like Fox Corp. Yeah, Fox Corporation. And then Pluto TV, I want to say, I now it's just becoming like trivia. I'm like trying to quiz myself. I want to say it's Paramount. Yeah, okay, Paramount owns Pluto TV. And then, of course, Freevee was an Amazon thing. So why do this, right? Because Prime Video already introduced their own ad tier, that you still have to pay for. So why are they moving Freevee into Prime Video? Like, why not just have this as its own separate thing? Well, the move here, and this is kind of me now dissecting some of the corporate bullshit, is this is another step towards Amazon's quest for Prime Video to have complete, the Prime Video hegemony, right? Deadline's Nelly Andreeva had a quote in an article about this saying, quote, Amazon is leaning into Prime Video already being a hybrid destination for both Prime members and non-members, end quote. Again, Deadline notes this makes sense since Amazon introduced ad tiers for Prime Video earlier this year. But I think the most important note here, or takeaway, is, Prime Video, as they kind of outlined in that corporate paragraph, the Prime Video could be your destination for everything, right? There are movies and shows to buy, movies and shows to rent, movies to stream for a cost, right? If you have a Prime membership, there's now going to be these titles to stream for free, even if you don't have a Prime account. You can also get other streaming channels and subscriptions through Amazon. So if you would rather watch your HBO content through Amazon, you can do that. If you want to have everything in one interface. And I think that was the big mistake of this huge pivot to streaming, is that it fractured the market, and everyone thought, well, let's have our own Netflix. But what made Netflix so special, especially in the early years, is that it was your one-stop shop. You didn't have 12 different accounts for 12 different services that have different libraries of content that are shifting always changing, things being added, things being removed. It was just, you could just go to Netflix and you could pretty much get almost anything that you really wanted. Whereas Prime Video could become that place. And I've said the same thing about Apple, that I think the future of streaming is not having a bunch of these services, but rather those services can exist, but the winners are going to be those who are able to thread the needle and provide that cohesive, holistic UI experience, as well as just customer experience of having everything that you want in one place. Again, that's the big thing about Prime Video, unlike these other services, except for Apple TV. If something's not on streaming yet, but you could rent it or buy it, you could do that through Prime Video or Apple TV. You can't buy anything on Netflix. You can't buy anything on Disney Plus or Max. So while it's maybe sad to see Freevee kind of maybe disappear, we didn't know them for very long. All the content's still going to be available. And most importantly, it looks like no one's going to be losing their jobs, which I think is the most important, is the most important part of something like this. Wow, what an interesting story. I'm sure you have some thoughts about the topic, so comment below, let me know what you think. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really, really helps people find the channel and makes me feel all warm inside. Until next time, I'm Peter Mancuso. Peace out.